Imagine a government begging its people to spend money and they refuse. Imagine a central bank paying you to borrow and you still say no. Imagine printing trillions of dollars and prices still keep falling. This sounds impossible, like fighting gravity or reversing time, but it's been happening in Japan for 35 years straight. Japan is fighting a war most countries would never understand. While everyone else fears inflation eating their savings, Japan desperately wants it. They've tried everything: free money, negative rates, buying stocks with printed cash, and they're still losing. This is the story of deflation, the economic disease that refuses to die, and why the third richest country on Earth can't beat it. But here's what makes this truly terrifying for you. America and Europe are starting to show the exact same symptoms Japan had. What happened in Japan wasn't unique, it was a preview, a glimpse into what happens when a society ages and stops believing in tomorrow. Most people think falling prices sound amazing. Your groceries get cheaper every year, your rent drops, everything costs less. But deflation is actually an economic poison that kills slowly. Here's how the trap works in real life. You want to buy a TV today for $500, but you know next month it'll be $450, so you wait. Multiply that decision by millions of people across every purchase they make. Suddenly, nobody's buying anything, because tomorrow will always be cheaper. Stores see sales collapsing, so they slash prices even more to survive. Lower prices mean businesses earn less money. Less money means they fire workers or cut salaries. Unemployed people obviously spend even less, which forces prices down further. It's a death spiral that feeds itself. But the real killer is what deflation does to debt. Imagine you borrowed $100,000 when wages were high. Now, deflation is shrinking your salary, but your loan payment stays exactly the same. Your debt is getting heavier every year, even though you're making payments. So, people stop borrowing completely and start hoarding cash. Businesses stop investing because nobody's buying their products anyway. The entire economy freezes like a computer that crashed, and once it starts, stopping it is nearly impossible. To understand how Japan got trapped, we need to go back to 1989. Japan was on top of the world, crushing every competitor. Their stock market had multiplied 5 times in 8 years. Tokyo real estate was so valuable that one city block cost more than entire countries. Then, on December 29, 1989, everything peaked and started falling. The stock market crashed, losing half its value in 3 years. Real estate followed, wiping out trillions in paper wealth. Banks had loaned money to everyone, assuming prices would always rise. Now, those loans would never be repaid. Companies started firing workers by the thousands. Families who borrowed to buy homes now owed more than the house was worth. And here's where the psychology shift happened that changed everything. People who had felt rich suddenly felt terrified. Their only goal became paying off debt and never taking risks again. When everyone tries to save at the same time, spending disappears. And when spending disappears, prices start falling. Japan had accidentally triggered deflation. The Japanese government watched this happening and panicked. They knew from history that deflation had caused the Great Depression, so they fought back with everything they had. First, they dropped interest rates to almost zero. Borrowing money became essentially free, but people still refused to borrow because they were scared. So the government started spending massively on public projects. They built roads, bridges, tunnels, airports across the country. They gave tax breaks and handed out stimulus checks. Still, deflation continued. In the early 2000s, they tried something called quantitative easing. the Bank of Japan started printing money to buy government bonds. The idea was to flood the system with cash, enforce inflation. It didn't work. By 2016, they were so desperate they tried negative interest rates. Banks now had to pay the central bank to store their money. The goal was to force banks to lend instead of hoarding. People still didn't borrow. The Bank of Japan then did something completely unprecedented. They started buying corporate bonds and even stock market shares. At one point, they owned 40% of all Japanese government bonds. They became one of the largest shareholders in the Japanese stock market. According to every economics textbook ever written, this should have caused massive inflation. Printing that much money should have made prices explode upward. But inflation barely moved, stuck near zero for decades.
So why did all these weapons fail against deflation? The answer reveals something terrifying about modern economics. Central banks can create money, but they can't force people to spend it. After the crash, Japanese households and companies had one mission: survive. They wanted to pay off debt, not take on more. Even when money was free, they saw risk, not opportunity. This created what economists call a balance sheet recession. Everyone was trying to repair their finances at the same time. When everyone saves simultaneously, total spending collapses. And in an economy, your spending is literally someone else's income. So one person's caution becomes another person's job loss. The government tried to replace missing private spending with public spending, but they couldn't spend enough to fill the gap without going bankrupt. Japan's government debt exploded past 200% of GDP, yet deflation persisted because the psychology never healed. People stopped believing the future would be better than the past. That loss of hope became a self-fulfilling prophecy. You can't print hope or buy it with negative interest rates. While economists debated theories, real people were living through hell. Young Japanese graduating in the 1990s found no good jobs waiting. Companies that once hired for life now only offered temporary contracts. An entire generation got stuck in low-paying jobs with zero security. They couldn't afford to get married or have children. Japan's birth rate collapsed, creating a demographic crisis. Fewer young people meant fewer workers paying taxes. More elderly people meant exploding healthcare and pension costs. This made the government debt problem even worse. The country entered a vicious cycle with no clear exit. Deflation led to low wages, which led to fewer babies, which led to more deflation. Each problem made the others worse. Now here's why Japan's war matters to you personally. Western countries are walking down the exact same path. Birth rates across Europe and America are falling below replacement levels. Government debt has exploded everywhere after years of printing money. Young people are delaying marriage and children because of economic anxiety. Asset prices have soared beyond what average workers can afford. These are the exact conditions that triggered Japan's crisis. Some economists argue Japan wasn't an exception, it was a preview. What happens when rich societies age rapidly while buried in debt? When people stop believing their children will have it better than they did? When printing money stops working because trust is broken? But in 2022, something strange finally happened in Japan. After 35 years of fighting inflation and losing, prices actually started rising. Not because their policies suddenly worked, but because global inflation from COVID and the Ukraine war got imported. Rising energy costs pushed Japanese prices up from the outside. For the first time in a generation, workers started demanding higher wages. Some economists believe Japan might finally be escaping the trap. Not through brilliant policy, but through external shocks nobody predicted. Others warn this could backfire if wages don't keep pace with rising prices. Imported inflation without wage growth just makes people poorer. The The jury's still out on whether Japan has truly escaped or just entered a new phase. So what's the actual takeaway from Japan's 35-year war? It's not that printing money is bad or government spending doesn't work. It's that economics isn't just math, it's psychology. You can't force people to spend if they don't believe tomorrow. You can't create inflation if everyone's too scared to take risks. Japan's trap wasn't really economic, it was a crisis of confidence. And broken confidence can't be fixed with monetary policy alone. The scariest part is how fast trust can evaporate. Japan went from economic miracle to lost decades in less than 3 years. Once deflation takes hold, escaping it can take generations.
Today, Japan remains wealthy by global standards, but it's a hollow wealth that people living there can feel every day. Decades of stagnation where nothing ever gets better, where working hard doesn't lead to prosperity anymore. Their story proves that preventing a crisis is infinitely easier than escaping one, that once psychological damage sets in, no amount of money printing can heal it. As Western nations face similar challenges, Japan offers a stark warning. The deflation trap is real. It can last for generations, and there's no guaranteed escape. That's why Japan has been fighting deflation for 35 years, and why, despite trying everything, they're still losing.